Now we enter chapter 5. Chapter 5 is really an interesting part of the Ramchal. Because the Ramchal here in Mesilat Yesharim is going to explain to us how do we lose what we've acquired. And that is something very, very important to think about. How many of you ever worked out? Raise your hands high so I can see. Okay, good. So when you started working out, how much could you bench? The pole, right? 45. In the beginning, you start out, it's barely the pole. And then you add, 10. And then you work out some more, and now you're at 25. And then you're at 40. And man, when you could put those 45s on there, you feel like, oh my God. Right? And then you put 240, you work up, and you got 245s, you're strutting your stuff, right? You feel, now, guess what? You don't go working out 5 years. And you're like, yeah, put them back. What happens? Right, you're not going to be able to do that. Why?
Atrophy?
Atrophy, exactly. The same thing happens with regard to our moral characteristics. If we let our guard up, we let our guard down actually. If we stop paying attention to our habits and the way we behave, the way we treat other people, that we essentially stop paying attention to our level of completeness, everything that we've reached, we will lose. It will atrophy. And the question is, how does the atrophy happen? Why? Why is it important to know? Because if there's a danger of atrophy, we need to know how to stop it. We have to pay attention to the warning signs. So we have to know, how does this set in? What happens? And that is why chapter 5 is so important. Okay? So your moral development, your perfection of making you the best human being you could be is something that you can't relax. You have to always stay vigilant. You have to stay on top of what's happening. So he says there are 3 things that cause our moral development or our perfection to atrophy. He says the number one thing is our life circumstances. We are very busy making a living, right? You've got responsibilities, we've got things that we need to do. All those things keep us very busy. And when we're very busy, we don't have time to introspect. We don't have the time to take a time out and think about, what am I doing? How am I doing what I'm doing? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Because life goes by very, very fast. And there's all sorts of things going on. All sorts of things that cause us to take our eye off the ball. And when we take our eye off the ball, what happens?
We drop the ball.
We drop the ball. That's right. Strike one. Because if it hits you in the face, it's not bad. At least you're going to walk. If we're using a baseball metaphor.
Oh.
The second matter that causes to drop our eye on the ball, schok v'halatzon. Kidding around, joking, laughing. Okay, I'm going to give you all sorts of details.
So you're not helping us in this class.
Fortunately, no. And the third, which is what I expected everybody to yell. No, chevra ra'ah, bad company. Bad company. If you are hanging around people who don't spend their time thinking about what they want to be, how they want to be, why they want to be, they just want to be, then it's going to affect you. It's going to rub off on you.
You're only as much as the people you hang out with.
Is that it? Is that the, yeah?
Something like that.
Yeah. So, he explains to us that since people are so busy making a living, and for those of you who had to make a living, or will make a living, you know that it is a struggle. It's not something that's very, very easy. It's very time consuming. There's lots of details that you have to pay attention to. There are things that cause you to have a different set of values or different set of priorities. Let's put it that way, not values. And those priorities take over most of your time. And he says that sometimes causes somebody not to study Torah. And when you don't study the Torah, you're not learning about how to perfect yourself. And when you're not learning how to perfect yourself, you are not perfecting yourself. And when you're not perfecting yourself, what happens? You are dropping lower and lower and lower. In Judaism, the principle is this. It's either you're moving up or moving down. There is no status. No, you cannot. It's either up or down. Yeah. Sometimes you get on the up escalator and you're just flying up. But you can't. You're not going to be, in a state of one level plateau, as you said, Yoni. That's not going to happen. It's either you're going up or you're going down. And if you are not, even if you're, and he says everybody needs to make a living, and people should pay attention to that. But don't take your eye off the ball. Don't forget why you're working. Why are you working? To have money. What do you need the money for? Right, but the reason to do mitzvahs. Yes, to do mitzvahs. Right, you want a house? So ask Hashem, Hashem, I want to do the mitzvah of a mezuzah. Give me a house. I want to have the mitzvah of having a family. Send me a woman so I can marry. Yes?
So those people who come to the yeshiva to ask for tzedakah, why don't they just pray for Hashem to provide? Why do they ask for tzedakah like you said?
Well, it doesn't. You have to do your ishtadlut. You have to do something. I'm not telling you to sit at home and not work, right? I didn't say that. What I'm saying is that you need to make sure that there are times where every day you're learning Torah and that you are spending time thinking about what type of person you are. And don't let the money cloud your judgment. That's all I'm saying.
How you're
Yeah, keep your eye on the ball.
I agree.
But what's the family for?
To keep the mitzvah. To have a family of Torah.
Okay, so and can you have a family of Torah without Torah learning every day?
No, I'm saying you go.
Okay. Yeah, so we don't disagree.
We're on the same page.
Good. Baruch Hashem. Thank God. Otherwise. So that is, and his example, he gives us a mashal. And it's a very, very good mashal. Because there are people who say, look, I know what to do. I don't really have time during the day to learn. I have a business to run. I have a job. I'm making 6 figures. I'm making $120,000 a year. I don't really have time for this. But I have a good idea. I can deal with my yetzer. I can control my evil inclination. Don't worry about me. I got it. Says the Ramchal, what is this similar to? That you have somebody who is ill. And he goes to the doctor. And he says, hey doc, I'm not feeling well. I don't know what is going on with me. The doctor runs all these tests and says you have this disease, whatever disease it is. And he says, by the way, here's a prescription. Go get these pills and you'll be fine. He takes the pills, he takes the prescription, goes to pharmacy, and he says, here, the doctor says that I should take these pills. But I know better. Just give me Sudafed, and I'll be fine. The pharmacist looks at him and says, what are you talking about? He says, what does he know? He went to medical school, but I know my body better than he does. So I'm telling you, just give me Sudafed and everything is going away. And in the meantime, the guy is not going to do well. You can't self-medicate in life. You cannot self-medicate with regard to your Yetzer Hara. There is only one tool to deal with the Yetzer Hara, and that is the Torah. If you want to have a control over your desires, there's only one way to do it. It's the Torah. You can't say, I'm going to go on my own, Rabbi. I got it. I can figure this out. Famous last words. Don't worry about me. I'm good. So says the Ramchal, that's why Torah is sort of the medicine to keep you on life support. Without it, you're going off the derech. You're going like this. Okay? That's why it's so important that when you are in the real world, making a living, working, studying, whatever you need to do, to have fixed times during the day, not only to learn Torah, but to implement the Torah. Right? We talked a little bit about what's the greater mitzvah, to learn Torah or to go to the funeral. Right? The whole purpose of learning Torah is to perform the mitzvahs. If you're just going to learn Torah just for a theoretical exercise, just because it's like learning chess, just in order to play the game, then yeah, maybe there is no use. But the idea is that learning Torah is in order to perform the mitzvahs, to implement what you're learning. And thereby, when you implement what you're learning, you are essentially limiting the ability of your yetzer, of your inclination, to get a control over your life. And the Torah is simply trying to show you that you are free. Because without it, you're not free. You're essentially an animal subject to the vicissitudes of your body. Yeah? Okay. Now, let's talk about fun. Have laughter. There are people confuse having fun and being happy. They think it's the same thing. But it's not. The Torah commands us to be happy. We need to serve Hashem with happiness. But fun comes from a different source altogether. And he says here, it is almost a person who loves fun and laughter and all of that, kidding around, is somebody who is drowning in an ocean and he can't get out of it. Why? Because it turns him into a fool. Because in order to have fun, he's willing to do things that normal people wouldn't do. Let it sink. Let it sink. He says it almost is like you are a drunkard or someone who's mentally incapacitated, which is a big, big jump, I would say. And he says because they lead us to inappropriate contact with the other gender. Never. You think it doesn't lead. And you go to a party and everybody's having a good time and they're laughing and all of a sudden you say, oh, that was a good joke. But it was only like this, and then soon it's like this, and then...
Let's not take it any further.
So he says really that this lightheadedness and laughter sort of draws us and we cross certain boundaries. And you can just think about parties that you went to, that people cross certain boundaries that probably they shouldn't. And it doesn't mean it's because they were drunk. It's just people are having a good time. And so here they're going to push somebody into the pool. And then someone's going to jump and just do this. And then they're going to pull somebody's pants down. Or there's going to be a glass and they tell somebody to walk through. So one time I was at a party, it's a long time ago. And we had a friend that drank a little bit and we wanted to teach him a lesson. So we all spoke to him like this. And he went like this. We were standing just talking to him. So everything okay? When do you want to go home? And he was like this. Yeah, everything is fine. I've got lots of those. I was very guilty of this. This was
of fun?
Of sort of laughter and sort of crossing boundaries. That's something that you have to. Now, the Ramchal then says something that it took me, before we started class, I was learning this section because I didn't really feel that I had a good understanding. But then it came to me. So thank Hashem for that. He says that the laughter and the joking around is like oil that is put on a shield so that whenever arrows are sent to the shield, they're deflected and they fall right off. It's a very, very difficult parable to understand. But what he is saying is that Hashem is trying to get us back on course. And how does he do that? By firing arrows at us. Trying to give us signals. Hey, knock it off. Pay attention. Come back. I love you. I want you to be with me. But since the guy is a jokester, everything he sort of laughs off. He doesn't pay attention. This happened to me, but who cares? Blah, 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 blah. And in a sense, he is missing the opportunity that Hashem is speaking to him. Hashem is trying to draw him by getting his attention. Which means what? That the things that happen in our lives, things that happen to us, are ways that Hashem is trying to call us to pay attention to something. But when a person is living in a world of laughter and joking around, whenever something happens, he just jokes it or laughs it off. And in a sense, he is missing an opportunity to perfect himself, to become a better person. And then he ceases to be careful. He's no longer careful about how he lives. And then there's no problem from there to sin and to get really lost.
So when's the laughter and the joking okay? I mean, it doesn't say here from, well, I know what it says there. From what you said.
Here you go.
Still know what it says there.
Yeah.
From what you said, it doesn't say don't laugh and joke when you're around the opposite gender or if it's not your
It's just an example.
No, I'm saying, but...
It's an attitude.
I understand, but there has to be a time and place for joking and laughing and this and that, no?
There's a time and place for being happy and for enjoying. So no, there is a time. You're right. There is a time and place for everything, but the Torah tells us that joking around
Not to treat
for
life
no
like it.
for no purpose, just to have fun, is not really what a Ben Torah should do. If you're a person that is committed to live a life connected to Hashem, that's not what it is. You know, pie eating contest is not where you should be hanging out.
It's kosher pie.
I knew you were going to say why.
Sorry.
So that's his idea, that we have to say that frivolous laughter and joking around is not something that we should engage in because it has a negative effect. It has a negative effect because it can cause us to take our eye off the ball. Okay? The third example is what? Do you remember? I told it to you already. So see if you're holding in the sugya. Anybody?
Bad company.
What?
Bad company.
Bad company.
Cool.
Right. Bad company.
Great man.
He says, by the way, just so you know, for jokesters, there's only one cure.
Death.
Shvatim. Really painful suffering. So he says that's the only way to get him back on course. So let's not avoid that. So then he says a person who hangs out with around a bunch of sinners and fools, they are going to affect him. That instead of connecting to Hashem and being very careful about how the person lives, he is being pulled away, right? So, and he brings a list of sources that we should be very, very careful from hanging out with people who essentially are pursuing the wind. You have to have the right pursuit. If you are pursuing the wind, then you are going, and they are going to affect you. And that's what he says. It's very, very, he says that a person should avoid the people who are just stuck with life. And he says you should bring yourself to the Chatzar of Hashem, to where Hashem is present, in the Beis Midrash, in a synagogue, to learn. That really is the purpose, to try to avoid the company. And he says, even if you are in a situation where people will laugh at you, oh, what are you putting that stupid thing on your head? What are those fringes? Really, come on, it's 21st century. You want to go back, what are you, the Taliban? Right? People are going to make fun of you. And he says you should not listen. Should not listen to that. Let them make fun of you. Because he says for something very interesting. Because if he were making money, and people were made fun of him, if you were making money, and somebody would make fun of you for the money that you're making, would you stop? You wouldn't listen to him at all. You're like, who cares? He says, how much more so when you are living your life with full of meaning and seeking pleasure, connecting to Hashem, and somebody's making fun of you. Why would that bother you at all? What? It wouldn't. All right. Mincha. So tomorrow we'll continue and have a good time.